Can Battlefield have some respect for these men? Do you really think the job was shoveling left and right? Why is the game so obsessed with giving them World War I stuff? I don't know if the guy that wrote the script knew anything about them. They were known as shock units. This is the thing what the game completely ignores. The Tirailleur Sénégalais opened the march of the parade in Toulon, hailed by the population as heroes. But you know it doesn't fit the agenda. Hi and welcome to History Legends. In this video we'll do a step-by-step historical breakdown of the 1944 liberation of France as depicted in the Tirailleurs mission from Battlefield 5. Spoiler, I might get mad a little bit. Are you ready? Let's... Hold on, I almost forgot. It's party time! Okay, this one works better. Raid Shadow Legends is celebrating its 3rd anniversary. Let's talk about the amazing things that happened in the game during those years. We're talking about more than 120 levels of the Doom Tower, hundreds of unique badass characters and bosses, and even a whole new faction, the Shadow Kid. But the newest and biggest addition to Raid is the Hydra Clan boss. It's without a doubt the biggest, baddest and scariest monster. You're all invited to the party. Just download Raid Shadow Legends with the link in the description. Raid is celebrating its 3-year anniversary and it's going to be huge. They've got an insane amount of things in store, free gifts for everyone, a bunch of new content and events, new champions and new artifact sets. Hit my link in the description or scan my QR code on the screen. I don't know if you can see it, but it's there. You'll get a huge B-Day package worth $40. Actually, Raid's birthday is your birthday. We're talking 3 champions at once, Misericord, Tiger Soul, and Romero, plus 10 Magic XP Brews, 10 Force XP Brews, and 10 Spirit Brews. All you have to do to get this treasure is click right here. But Raid is very generous. Already existing players can get free birthday gifts worth over $25. Once you're in game after clicking on the links, just enter promo code 3YearsRaid to get your hands on everything. It's really that easy. Just click the link in the description and see you in game. Okay, now for real, are you ready? Let's go, and I hope you can see the subtitles. Or just learn French. Here, the book basically says Faces of World War II. This book doesn't exist. Like, what book would actually be called Faces of World War II? And of course, it's all white men. The main book, the main reference for this topic is this book right here. Oh my god, surprise, surprise! So much diversity! You have Moroccans, you have Sub-Saharan Africans. So, this is BS.
Ces hommes, c'étaient des héros. Mais ils n'étaient pas les seuls à combattre.
Okay, they were not the only ones to fight. Actually, I would even go as far as to say that most people don't know about the Free French forces altogether. Okay. The word tirailleur essentially translates as skirmisher, and eventually it was used to designate colonial infantry of the French army. Every colony had its tirailleur, locally recruited in Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, Senegal, Indochina, you name it. The first Senegalese Tirailleurs were formed in 1857. The last unit was disbanded in 1964, a whole century of history. But long story short, by 1944 there were about 15,000 Senegalese Tirailleurs in the French army separated into combat divisions. Nagadef, that's Wolof, the language of Senegal. My neighbors were from Senegal, so I kinda know it. But that means that these two guys are also from Senegal. But then you might say, dummy, of course, they're called Senegalese Tirailleurs. But the important thing for you to remember is that the French essentially regrouped all sub-Saharan recruits into the Senegalese Tirailleurs because of some feature they all have in common. I have to stay politically correct these days. So whether you were from Gabon, Mali, Chad, Côte d'Ivoire, all Senegalese Tirailleurs. Take a look at their uniform for a second. So here you can see that the guy is wearing the traditional red shisha fez, which is historically correct. And according to this World War I tirailleur veteran, in his own words, the ladies liked the fit so much that they were ready to break the coco. But he rejected the offer because allegedly he would lose the power of his gris-gris, his voodoo amulet that he wore around his neck. Lost opportunities, maybe Black will make something out of it. But I gotta say, I've never heard the expression break the coco. The fez would most likely be worn during parades, you know, like off duty. Okay, do you see that he's disembarking right in the harbor, in the middle of the city, during Operation Dragoon? All troops that were disembarked in southern France did so on the beach, simply because the harbors were still in German hands. Now, the Senegalese Tirailleurs landed on D-Day +2, and the beach is not any beach. It's the beach of Saint-Tropez.
Welcome to Saint-Tropez.
Not the same ambiance than the guys that landed in Normandy. But seriously, on this picture you can see where the Tirailleurs actually landed. Wait, could it be Americans in the Pacific? It's actually legit! The guy on the left ruins it. And is it me, or he seems very salty that he still has the 1940 uniform? The ladies definitely won't be impressed. Meanwhile, unknown to most, the Senegalese were provided fully 100% American gear. And even the M1 helmet, the entire kit. This is not what you would imagine. And here's a colored version for you. I mean, colored uniform. And as you can see, French troops had a French flag armband to differentiate from locals and tourists. But seriously, if you zoom in, we can kind of attempt to see what weapon they're using. As you know, I'm not the greatest gun guy, but it seems to me that they're all carrying M1 Garands as their standard rifle. Here is a rare footage of Operation Dragoon. You can see dozens of trucks and landing ships docked right on the beach. Notice how the African soldiers help unload the ships under the indifferent look of the sailors. From head to toe, they wear the all-American uniforms and helmets with their M1 Garand strapped across their chest. Why couldn't Battlefield 5 start off like that? Oh yeah, I almost forgot, if that wasn't enough, a lot of African units were also fully equipped by the British with the iconic Brodie helmet. Now, the thing I'm wondering here is that why is he wearing this huge coat? This is August in the south of France. It's pretty hot. Okay, you see, lavender fields. This is typical from southern France. I just feel that the game could have explored just in a few words what African recruits must have felt like once reaching France. It's an entirely different world for them, but the game completely ignores this, and it's pretty sad. Oh, okay, now they talk about it. Okay. What is this uniform? Why do they have this weird green color? And as if all the French soldiers, the Free French, all had this 1940s type of uniform. Like, come on. Oh my god. This is so overdone. Like, come on. It immediately becomes a struggle for racial stuff and equality. You put modern topics into a 1940s world. And come on, the thing with the shovel. The Senegalese fought, and they fought valiantly. For example, the 6th Regiment of the Senegalese Tirailleurs liberated Toulon on the 26th of August 1944. After 6 days of battle, they suffered 107 killed and 467 wounded. That's 1 in 6 men in only 6 days. Do you really think the job was shoveling left and right? They were known as shock units. This is the thing what the game completely ignores. And for their courage in battle, the Tirailleur Sénégalais opened the march of the parade in Toulon, hailed by the population as heroes. But you know it doesn't fit the agenda. See, he seems shocked, but come on. Under the raid, okay, while all the others are chilling, come on.
Et quand tout a échoué, notre jeune et ambitieux capitaine a décidé de nous porter volontaires pour s'emparer des canons anti-aériens armants qui l'encerclent.
Okay, that's funny. He volunteered them. But again, young captain. Okay, does he look like a young captain? And again, this is the 1940 uniform, but in combat, this captain would not wear this. In reality, he would wear combat gear and most likely the M1 helmet, just like the Americans. Oh, what is the helmet they're having? That's literally the helmet I have here in the back. Look at that. The same emblem, the World War I model. Completely ridiculous. At least have them wear the 1940 uniform, at least this version, but not the World War I version. Okay, the captain, a company commander, will 100% go with them to battle. I don't know if you can feel the message. What? You won't find the story I'm going to tell you in the history books. No way! Of course not, because this is pure BS. It's literally made up. Stukas in 1944, oh my god, just roaming the sky. It feels to me I've already played a similar mission in Call of Duty 2, just saying. But seriously, this part would have been 100 times more realistic if the Germans would have used an 88mm to ambush this column. Hold on, what is this gun? Okay, so the landscape. Oh, what? Guys, do you see what I'm looking at? A Shosha FM. Shosha LMG. Again, from World War I. Why is the game so obsessed with giving them World War I stuff? You see that the LMG he's holding is a Mac model 1924-1929, the standard light machine gun used by France in 1940. This would have been the oldest weapon that they could have used. But like we said, by 1944, the Free French forces used Allied equipment. On a positive note, the landscape is well done. This is fall 1944, when Allied forces are right at the Alsatian border near Germany. And they face this mountain range that the Germans defended and fortified, and they just couldn't get through. It's sort of properly represented. Okay, level 2. Oh no! Come on! They're literally making things up now. I didn't know they would actually make them fight on the Siegfried line. These blocks that you can see here were called dragon's teeth and are iconic of the Siegfried line. I'll just show you a picture right here. The problem is that the Senegalese Tirailleurs never fought against the Siegfried line. They never entered Germany. I actually don't know what was the purpose of this. Maybe it's a Call of Duty thing. Maybe in every Call of Duty you have to cross this dragon teeth field. Like, it's a requirement. In my opinion, it would have been more realistic if they had to cross some field and all of a sudden it turns out to be a minefield and they have to get through under sniper fire. Oh, you see how he talks about God. Okay, quick pause. Just before I talk about this, you see how they're some Shermans that are destroyed. I think it would have been nice to actually see the tank crews coordinate attack with the Senegalese, because this is what they would actually do in reality. That would have been at least interesting and somewhat close to reality. But here you see how he says, God help me. Thing is, they're Muslim, right? Wouldn't he say Allah or at least some prayer in Arabic? If you look at archives or veteran stories, it was known that Muslim troops in the Free French forces would often pray in Arabic or simply have Arabic war cries, like the famous Allahu Akbar, which means God is great. But for example, the Moroccans were famous for saying Zidul Gudam, which means moving forward. In my opinion, it would have been a nice touch to feel this, you know, that they all have the same battle cry in a foreign language. Section Jules. Okay, what happened to them? Oh! They're dead? Oh, I understand why they brought it up. It's just anachronistic for 1944. Essentially what happened is that during the 1940 Battle of France, black prisoners of war were often put aside by the Germans, and many were summarily executed. The biggest massacre involved 188 Africans killed at once. Overall, it is said that 3,000 black soldiers were summarily executed in May and June 1940. The worst is that it wasn't done by SS units, but by German regulars. And one of the stories in my veterans book actually talks about it. I don't know if you can see, but this was this man's story, and he was one of the officers in a Senegalese company. I'll skip through, but the story says there was a strategic bridge that they had to defend to block the way of the panzers. He defended the bridge with his men vigorously and was killed in action on June 15, 1940. Apparently, what was left of his Senegalese soldiers after the battle were brought to a nearby church and executed by the Germans. It's truly tragic, and this often happened to Senegalese units that actually fought well. Like the Germans couldn't take it, they were too salty. Now, in regards to the mission, I think it should have been the introduction. Introduction 1940. And you see them actually defend the bridge with courage and everything. And then this happens, but you see it happening. And then it moves forward to 1944. The entire game would have had another, I don't know how to say it, but a more powerful message. Okay, you see here Idrissa is acting like the company commander. Generally in French colonial units like this one, NCOs and officers would be French, everything above the rank of sergeant and lieutenant. However, corporals could be African, and in some cases they could go up the ranks and even end up as company commander, but it was rare. That was only for guys that stayed their entire life in the army. So historically speaking, the Senegalese should have more white soldiers. The Diversity Syndicate should intervene. Here he says, we've already done what the best French soldiers couldn't. The message is right in your face, like they shove it in your face. And in reality, who were the best troops of the French army? I don't know. So let's take a look at this document. The most decorated units of the French army. And if we go to World War II. And now in terms of regiments, you can see it yourself. Paratroopers, Algerians, Tunisians, Moroccans, French Foreign Legion, French Foreign Legions, Algerians, Moroccans. Pretty self-explanatory. And here you have a Senegalese unit, 1941-1943. But this shows us that North Africans were among the more renowned troops of the French army during World War II.
Si on avance et sur le terrain ces canons, les livres d'histoire parleront de nous, de la reconnaissance, du respect.
If you check out interviews of veterans from Senegal or Sub-Saharan Africa, absolutely none speak about fighting for recognition or respect. That only became a topic when the colonies became independent and the French government essentially stopped paying pensions. And even when they were receiving pensions, it was super low. For example, Mr. Break the Coco was receiving 50 euros a month. When he died in 1998, the French ambassador in Senegal went to the funeral and handed the Légion d'honneur to his son, as well as a one-time payment of 76 euros. Like, come on, like they're so cheap. So I understand why they could get mad. And actually, a lot of the pensions were reinstated after a World War II movie that came out in France talking about these African recruits from World War II. And this is when the government started waking up. Only took 50 years. Meanwhile, the Germans were paying full pensions to all French veterans of the Wehrmacht or the Waffen-SS. In my opinion, the message would have been much better if you see these African recruits, the Senegalese, they win the Battle of Toulon, it ends with a huge parade, and then you see the main character, poor in Senegal, with barely enough to eat despite his service. Without having to literally tell you, you understand the problem. Okay, they're actually breaking through the castle. The castle is literally called Old Castle. But the landscape and the skin of the game is well made. I just wish that it was in the right area. Oh. Whoa. Here he says we didn't have years of training. Can Battlefield have some respect for these men? I don't know if the guy that wrote the script knew anything about them. The game conveniently ignored the fact that the Tirailleur Sénégalais as a whole actually fought in Tunisia, liberated Corsica, and conquered Elba Island before being sent to France in 1944. So they had training and battle experience. And like we just saw, a good chunk were among the first Free French forces of the war that fought as soon as 1941 and 1942. In a way, they had more battle experience than the Germans here. Oh my god, of course, there has to be a tiger. It has to be a tiger. So they enter this sort of hospital. Okay, what weapon is this? I have no other choice but to congratulate Battlefield. Whoa. Because the weapon he's holding is a Lee Enfield, which is historically accurate for the Senegalese Tirailleurs. Alright, not bad. Oh, now all the white soldiers show up after the battle. Oh, there's only 3 survivors. Again, that green uniform, I can't. Recognition. What? Did he just misrank his CO? Okay, maybe that's why the other guys are taking credit for this battle. He said, "Thank you, Commander," which is another rank in the French army. A much higher rank, when he should have said, "Thank you, Captain." Who wrote the script? They can't even keep up with their BS. I'm sorry, this uniform, none of them has an accurate uniform. Why is it green? It triggers me. And then, why is nobody shocked that there's only 14 survivors? This captain lost 90% of his men. He doesn't even flinch. He should have been a Soviet commander. When the French army liberated Paris, they pulled back all the black troops. Next time, why don't they interview actual veterans instead of making things up? So essentially, Americans agreed to fully equip the French with 3 armored divisions. However, in return, the Americans did not want any black soldiers in these tank divisions. The French had no other choice but to accept if they wanted their army to play an important role in the war. So before the French 2nd Armored Division even went to England, all its black soldiers that have been there since day 1, the OG crew from 1941, were transferred to other units. Namely the ones that landed at Saint-Tropez. But the most important thing is that this happened months before the liberation of Paris. Whereas in the game, it makes it seem as if they were at the city gates and all the black soldiers were pulled aside and only the white guys entered. And the worst part is that not all Africans were removed, since 1,300 North Africans were present during the liberation of Paris. Probably because Americans didn't really know what North Africans were. They kind of looked Latino, so they're like, alright, fine. So this bold claim, debunked.
Paris, ils ont retiré tous les soldats noirs. Ils les ont remplacés par des visages plus familiers.
The propaganda runs hard. He's mixing two events together that are not the same. The first thing is the event about Paris, which we debunked. Now he's referring to an event generally known as the Whitening that took place in fall 1944, which is more relevant to this mission because, as you saw, it took place in fall. In November 1944, 15,000 battle-hardened Senegalese troops were removed from the front line to be replaced with French resistance fighters. In the game, the main argument is that the French only wanted white men seen liberating the country. Pretty strange argument considering the French still had tens of thousands of North African soldiers within their ranks. It's a very controversial topic still today, but essentially there were three reasons why they did so. Number one, winter was approaching, and from their experience with colonial troops during World War I, the French army knew that sub-Saharan Africans would suffer much more than the others from the cold. So every fall they would be withdrawn from the front. Number two, they were planning to send the Senegalese Tirailleurs to liberate Indochina, and they thought that the best troops for this hot, humid, tropical environment were the Senegalese troops. So the idea was to withdraw them from France and send them to Asia like the British did with the Acadians. And number three, de Gaulle wanted to integrate and blend all the different groups of resistant fighters that were highly autonomous into the structure of the French army. And in conclusion, no African veteran mentions what he's talking about. It wasn't a problem for them. The problem was not being removed from the front line. Because remember, a lot of them have been fighting for years. They were pretty happy to go back home. The problem was how they were demobilized. They got mad that it took forever for them to be sent back to Africa. Riots erupted because they did not receive their wages. They had no more decent uniforms after trading them with the new recruits. They complained about the poor living conditions in the camps and basic stuff like that, which is pretty normal. At the same time, one of the last surviving veterans from Senegal said that he was pretty happy to be able to visit France and roam the country freely. They enjoyed the free time. They enjoyed it. And who knows, maybe enough time to break the cocoa. Let me know what you thought about my analysis in the comment section below. If you're new to this channel, don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you like this video, if you like the information I provided, make sure to subscribe to my Patreon. The link is in the description.